Happy holidays from the Badass Records podcast.
So, the great one, Wayne Gretzky himself. No, episode 99, Badass Records podcast. Mike, Garry, how the heck are you?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. So, are you buddies with Lucas? Is that how our connection happened, or?
All right, I'll tell you the story. It's interesting. Will, episode 92.
Yeah, Will Wolthrop.
Him and I are yogis together, and we've been going to a Tuesday or Thursday class at 6 a.m. on the plaza for about 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Will is I would say a new friend of mine, which is exciting.
Yeah.
As an older male.
Yes.
Making friends obviously is not something you do every day.
No.
And Will and I, besides going to yoga and never speaking to each other except, hey, how are you doing? Good work. You know, you got a good practice, blah, blah, blah. We started talking about music. We started talking about life. Will and I have a lot in common.
Okay.
At one point, Will says to me, check out what I'm going to send you later. And he sends me your podcast.
Interesting.
And I listened to it on a drive. Where did I drive to? I went to Tall Grass Prairie and did some hiking out there.
Okay, cool.
And I listened to the podcast up and back. When I got back after listening to Will's podcast, I said to myself, I'm going to check out the other 91 guests because I know a few other people that you've had on. Well, I said to myself, as a lifelong Kansas Cityan, I know that I'm going to know some people that you've had on.
Okay.
And the first person I found was Matt Smith, which I think is episode 72.
That's right.
We can look at the wall.
The Eric Fisher episode. I didn't have any other 72s.
And we can go all the way back to another person, Brad Buckner.
Oh.
Which he's in the teens.
He's
maybe?
21.
21.
He's that tiny little signature up there.
Yeah, so Brad has his twins are the same age as my oldest daughter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I've seen all his bands play multiple times.
Nice. I've only seen Casey Green. I've not seen Tiki Brawlers.
Casey Green's my favorite.
Okay, cool.
They're pretty fun and jammy and funky.
And then when I saw that show, I asked Kadesh Flo to do an episode, and he did one, and that was super fun.
And I don't know Kadesh, but I knew of him just by seeing his name.
So whatever the correspondence was that day, I feel like Will said friend of a friend or something like that. And
it was happening regardless.
Okay, yeah.
Between Will and Matt.
So then I reached out to Matt, and I was like, do you know Mike, Garry? And he literally was like, do I? Well, and then I think maybe you guys had even messaged that day. I don't remember, but...
And what's funny about Matt's episode is I'm faintly not recognized by name, but I'm part of the Ohana Festival crew that goes every year to the Ohana Fest.
What did that come up in his episode? It's not ringing a bell.
Yeah, I think when he was talking about Pearl Jam,
okay,
how Matt's seen him 158 times.
Right. Yeah. So you know Matt just through, you're not buddies with his brother?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, his brother Lucas and about 7 other guys were in a big high school clique that we've been friends for.
Okay, that's same with. In fact, on our we have had a couple iterations of our high school buddies text thread, but it's had to move to WhatsApp because somebody's in Canada and somebody has some Canadian-based phone service to where not everybody can see each. It's a totally an anomaly, but Matt messaged the group over the weekend, probably on Saturday or Sunday, that his brother was going to the game yesterday, which was another reason why I was crabby. And it's like, I shouldn't be still letting the Kansas City Chiefs affect my mood, but I do. I mean,
There were certain notes that I was thinking of. What should I and shouldn't I talk about in this episode? Since we are talking about text threads, high school friends, in this particular high school thread, I am known as the spiritual advisor of the Chiefs Kingdom.
For real? That's pretty cool.
Well-
who assigned that title to you?
This is the best part, myself.
Okay. Nice.
And let me use my credentials as a background, but lifelong Kansas Cityan, basically lived out of Kansas City for college and a couple years on the West Coast. Held season tickets every year that I can imagine. My dad and I, we've jumped around the stadium. We started at the 25-yard line on the Chiefs side. And recently we moved up to 20 yards above Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid at the 50
Okay.
on the Chiefs sideline. Against the Bills, Taylor Swift was 15 rows behind me.
Okay. I don't get to many games. I was at that one.
Let me tell you that the security was high, and it was something that I didn't really, I'm trying to think of the right words, but it inconvenienced me a little bit.
The security because of Taylor's presence?
Yeah. Women were lining out to get a 15-second glimpse at her as the game was ending. There was probably 20 Jackson County marshals waiting, guarding the suite.
Wow.
It was something that you're going to a Chiefs game with your son, or I'm taking my son and I just want to have a good time, see a Chiefs win, and it's just a sideshow.
Yeah. That was so one of our buddies that's in our thread is in Denver, and his son's birthday wish was to attend a game. So it was supposed to be 3 dads and 3 sons, and when the Kelsey to Tony play happened, we went nuts. And then all of a sudden, everybody's lining up for the next play, and I was like, I didn't see a flag. There's nothing. I was like, what? It took like 5-6 minutes of real time to get any kind of explanation, and then it was over, and I was just like, what the fuck just happened? I mean,
it would have been one of the greatest plays in NFL history if it stood.
Coming on the heels of the death of Frank Wycheck.
Right.
Music City Miracle. Same, you remember that play?
Same play, right.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah. Which, God, had I known on December 10th that 15 days later we'd be watching just absolute disaster. I don't know what the deal is. As
the unofficial spiritual advisor, let me state this, but one, I don't believe Taylor Swift has anything to do with the Chiefs' struggles.
Good. I would have questioned your sanity if you would have.
I think maybe she's contributing to other things with Travis Kelce, and maybe his focus maybe is not 100% on the Chiefs. However, as a team, I just feel that there is something going on between the coaching and the offense, and it has to do with either Eric Berry's absence, Matt Nagy not being capable of doing a good job, or Andy Reid may just be checking out.
Which one do you believe?
I think Andy's checking out a little bit. I think he's slowly releasing control of the team in a way that he's not. He's won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
I think if you asked Andy when he took over the Chiefs, when he did, if he won 2 Super Bowls, would he have been happy? I think he would have been thrilled with 1.
Yeah.
And of course you want to go out and win again, but you also got to be up for every game. And everybody, I once heard somebody talk on another show that said when you win a Super Bowl, everybody in the organization from the top down has to be super. And do I think Clark Hunt's been super this year? Absolutely not.
Because?
Took the game to Germany.
That was his call? Or part of a board's call?
He's the one that gets to sign off on it. He's losing the game. Number 2, Clark gives out a towel every time we have a ring ceremony. You could consider Clark one of the cheapest owners in the league.
A towel?
Yeah. Like, the guys are getting $1 million rings and we're getting towels as season ticket holders.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
Clark could do a little bit more for the fans of Kansas City. Number two, I think that, sometimes I think there's some distraction in the Chiefs about the World Cup and the stadium. There's the Royals want a new stadium, which is complete BS, by the way. I don't have any faith in John Sherman. I don't know what his plan is. He seems to be a Kansas Cityan, but you never see him do anything in Kansas City. Something's not right there. And baseball, do any of your kids watch baseball?
No. Granted, I have, my daughter she doesn't really care too much about her. The fact that she's playing basketball is, entirely social. And in fact, things were so bad for their squad last year. I pulled the basketball coordinator aside and was like, "Do I need to get my credentials up to snuff?" And she was like, "I don't know, maybe, but not yet. Let's see." And so when this season rolled around, she was like, "Do you?" And I was like, "Oh, sure, yeah, I'll coach." And it quiet, silent understanding that my daughter would make B and I would coach the B team. Well, she got a dribble up thing from Santa last year, and she has to do it every morning that she wakes up here. I made her play spring and fall ball, which she detested, but one of her best buddies played, and we made sure that they were on the same team. And then she goes out for tryouts and makes the A team.
Oh, nice.
And they were like, "You can bail if you want." And I was like, "I mean, who are you going to ask?" And they're like, "We don't have anybody." And I was like, "Okay." So I'm coaching 7th grade girls team that I don't have a kid on. And then she has her team, and then he has his team. And so it's just like, I've already sent the wrong information to our parents once because I'm looking at 3 schedule. Anyway, no, my kids don't watch baseball at all.
And I'm also a middle school basketball coach, which we can totally get into later because there's some good stuff there. But baseball, I don't know if it's a sport the world's betting on right now. It's just it's become slow and monotonous, and there's not much action to it. And kids need action, they need attention, they need things
Fortnite
going
and TikTok.
on. There you go. So, long story short, I don't think the Chiefs organization from top down is being super this year. That's why their problems are. It goes.
Seems like everybody and their mother, Matt Nagy.
I mean, I think that's an easy
Exactly.
finger to blame. But like I said, there's something going on from the top to the bottom where people aren't paying attention to the I's and crossing the T's.
Yeah.
And it just shows it on the field. And unfortunately, it's just.
Yeah. And, after the Tony interception last week, everybody was time to be done with that. And it's like, I get it, man, but like how quickly you forget the role that he played. It's just like, some.
Wait a second. In the offseason, they were talking about Tony being, the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
But,
anyway.
We're here about music. So
Yeah. We'll get there. there.
Okay.
I just, a few seasons ago, week 2, some local sports talk radio person was like, what's his name? Daniel Sorensen leads the league in missed tackles. And I was like, that's not a stat that is kept. And everybody just trashed him. And then of course he was immediately gone. And I just wanted to, and I did frequently in our thread talk about how many pivotal, huge, crucial plays he made en route to championships. And it's like, without any one of those plays, we don't wind up where we wind up. So I know it's a very, what have you done for me lately kind of thing, but it makes me feel bad for Kadarius Toney or whoever happens to be.
Oh, well, Kadarius Toney, in my opinion, is probably the most talented wide receiver they have on the team, too.
I know, that's crazy.
And again, his focus isn't there, which is allowing other people's focus to drop. And it's if you didn't have such a good defense this year, there's no way you would be 9 and whatever you are.
Not in first in the division. The other thing that blows my mind is the drop off in MVS's play without Juju Smith-Schuster is like, I cannot connect those. It's amazing. Like, there was one play yesterday where he just like didn't even try, you know?
Well, I was talking to somebody, and when you add up all the playoff games that they played over the last 4 or 5 seasons, it's a whole nother year. And
Burnout,
no one
fatigue.
stops to think about that. And plus your off season's much shorter than everybody else's.
All good points.
You know, the draft is in April, mini camps in May, you know, mandatory mini camps in June.
Yeah.
And then you're back in training camp in July. I mean,
wow.
You know, who's the worst team in the league? The Arizona Cardinals or the Carolina Panthers? They're going home next 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's crazy.
January 1st. They're home, and the Chiefs, you know, by the last couple, you know, 2 of the last 5 years, they've been partying until March.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. What is the picture or the icon that appears when one texts with you? It's like this swirl.
Oh, it's just an emoji.
Okay. It's fascinating.
It was my picture, and then I changed to a mushroom, and then for business purposes, I thought, I'm just going to use
Okay. It's cool looking. Let Freedom Trip.
Yes.
Podcast.
Correct.
Found where?
Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever.
All the places.
Yeah.
Right on. Origin story there.
The podcast is about me, by me, and for me. Basically, it's just therapeutic for me to get on there and tell my stories. And if it resonates with people, even better. Am I looking to go big? Absolutely not.
Right. And what do you call yourself?
Flying K.
Flying K. So I just looked at the descriptions for all the episodes, and so I have some questions about a few of the episodes.
The background of Let Freedom Trip is that during the pandemic, going through a difficult time, I decided to give up alcohol.
Okay. The rest of us were like, we'll take yours.
It's funny, and that's when I really started to realize kind of who I was, because throughout my life, I'd always never really wanted to follow the crowd, but I did follow the crowd. And so quitting alcohol was the first time I was really zagging in my own life.
When everybody else is zigging. Okay. Wow. I mean, I'm a lot of kudos to you. To anybody listening or watching, it might sound like those are easy words to formulate and to get out of your mouth, but to do that, I imagine, took some hard work and effort and concentration and focus. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
And maybe that's my, unknown superpower, but I was sitting with a friend and we were smoking pot, cannabis, and I just looked at him and I'm like, I am just so tired of pot. I need something more. I'm not drinking. I'm not against other things.
Right.
And he says to me, we've always wanted to trip together. And I said, that's exactly it. We need some psychedelics.
Okay.
And the easiest psychedelics to get your hands on, especially in a pandemic, is psilocybin mushrooms.
Mm-hmm. And
literally, figuratively, livingly, sitting here, the mushrooms they sobered me up. They opened my mind. They connected parts of my brain that just hadn't been working for a long period of time.
So this was you had no...
I had no idea what I was doing.
But you didn't take mushrooms at any time prior.
There were a few experimental mushroom trips, and actually in one of the episodes, maybe the first episode, I describe a perfect bad trip.
Oh, okay.
Where I had passed out at a music venue in George Washington, the Gorge.
Yeah.
During sunset to Jack Johnson singing Bubbly Toes.
Passed out because of the psilocybin?
Well, the moment was so...
Oh, wow. Dude. That's heavy duty.
But the moment was overwhelming. But I had drank a bottle of Jack in the parking lot probably the night before, so I was probably dehydrated.
Gotcha.
And
now okay. Yeah.
I was not well rested.
Yes.
So all that time, and that's what I kind of get into in the podcast a little bit, all that time I had a stigma against psilocybin, or against mushrooms and psychedelics, because I contributed my passing out to them.
Okay.
And literally, I had a near-death experience. I mean, luckily, my friend...
this medical help was required?
Oh, I was down for the count.
You didn't pass out and then pop back up?
I woke up in the medical tent. I had no idea what happened to me.
Fuck. That's scary, dude. I mean, as maybe as a 29-year-old person, I wouldn't be, but as a 49-year-old person, that scares the shit out of me.
I was 23.
Okay. Wow.
You might want to listen to the podcast.
Yeah. Oh no. And I will. It's just been
hint.
The last month. No.
It's
just been
what I've learned about podcasts, and this is true for this podcast, for this episode, who I'll send to all my friends. What I've learned is it's time and energy.
Yeah.
And neither of those things you can ask somebody to give you for without them having to think about it, because no one just hands over their time or energy anymore. That's the real currency.
I wish we could have had this conversation before I launched. Just because people start saying no or not showing or what, and I'm like, what the fuck? And that, I mean, I realize now. I mean, and that's just talking guests, but it's also audience. Like, I get it, man. I totally get it. And then, doing the back end of this editing process eats up. Anyway.
No. I feel you.
Started.
And it's a saturated market as well.
Yeah.
And there's only 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And people's lives, I understand them to be very complicated.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you do a really good job of on your shows, is you uncomplicate people's lives through music.
Thank you. Oh, that's pretty cool. So the first one I had was episode 1. You already...
Yeah, that's basically...
Pandemic, life struggles, psychedelics. In episode 2, sobriety and toxic masculinity. And we touched on the former. Toxic masculinity is a thing that a lot of females will throw out online or in their book or whatever, but you're talking about it for yourself. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's leading up to episode 3, which is where narcissism comes into play.
Okay.
And so going through a rough period personally, and a rough period that my marriage was in at the time, there was a lot of self-introspection and looking in the mirror and trying to find out trying to grasp what the situation was. When I was drinking, maybe we'll end on a story from the 2018 AFC Championship game.
Oh boy. Okay.
But when I was drinking, there was a level of depression that I was hitting time after time and I would wake up and smoke pot through it, and then it would delay the depressive episode until like a Tuesday, because I would just be stoned nursing a hangover. It was just a cyclical cycle of just not paying attention to anything and just going about my day. And that became toxic.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing that, man. I mean, I feel you 1,000%. Episode 5, contacting entities from his past to exchange healing messages.
So the idea behind the idea behind season 1 was to kind of tell my pandemic story. How I quit alcohol. I started to do psychedelics.
I don't know.
Okay.
We're gonna have to.
No, it's doing
just
pretty
roll
good.
through it.
Yeah, no. So, it might be the entities talking.
Well said.
No, so my idea was just to tell my story, how I quit alcohol, use psychedelics, and then little by little, I was increasing the dosage. So as I become a mature drug user, increasing the dosage creates, stronger, heavier descents into the mind. The more healing there is, the more connecting of the brain cells there are, the more past memories you're bringing up that you've never even brought up before or in a very long time. And so, when you take psychedelics, it's all about the set and setting. The set is your mindset, what you bring into your trip, what you're trying to accomplish. By the time that episode 5 rolled around, I had been doing psychedelics for a good 6 or 7 months. I'd gone through some trials and tribulations of what worked and what didn't work. Getting to this point, around my birthday, we found Terrence McKenna.
I know that name somehow.
He's probably, his brother is Dennis McKenna, I think his name. And he's a big mycologist in the Northwest.
Okay.
And his brother,
mycologist?
Yeah, where you grow mushrooms.
Okay.
Mycologist. I think that's what it is. I'm pretty sure.
You're probably right. I just haven't heard that term before.
I don't know. I turned off my phone, so I can't look it up. But you can look it up. And also I have an undiagnosed symptom of like speaking dyslexia.
Oh.
Like I feel like I should know what I'm saying, but sometimes I'll misplace words without even thinking about it.
Oh. Yeah.
So if you want to edit those out, that's fine. But anyway, so we got, long story short, episode 5 is I took a hero dose. And a hero dose is 5 grams of more mushrooms in one sitting.
Okay.
And you cannot prepare yourself at all for a hero dose. There's just there's just nothing you can do.
You just got to get in there.
You just have to be in the mindset that you're willing to take on anything and anything. And what Terrence said is the best time he's ever done it, or the best introspective trips he's ever gone through, he closes the door, turns off the lights, and everything just happens.
Whew. Okay.
And that's what I did. And that's what episode 5. And then I go back the next week and do another one, and that's episode 6.
Okay. Episode 6, The Dead Musician. Who are we talking? Is it
Jerry Garcia?
Okay. Interesting.
The War on Drugs Live Drugs album, which is amazing. I went to the record store and bought to listen to during that trip.
Okay.
And as I was beginning to go down the rabbit hole in my mind, I envisioned Jerry Garcia sitting with a guitar.
Whoa.
Just listening. He's like, I'm here to listen to this album with you.
A deeper understanding.
Yeah.
Was a very, very valuable asset for me getting through some of the toughest sleddings of my divorce. And I haven't given, I couldn't even tell you the name of it, their release that came out since then. I've maybe made it through it twice, and I like their older stuff fine. And then I went and saw them at Grinders last summer. and it was fine. And then I looked at the set list the next day or a couple days later, and they're just same set list every night. And I was like, fuck, man, like I had you guys up here, and it's fine. It doesn't matter, but that record is so amazing. And
Thinking of a Place is one of my top songs.
Thinking of a Place, and is Pain the other one?
Yep.
Yeah, Thinking of a Place is so fucking good.
So they were at the last Ohana version this year, and they played like 6 songs in 40 minutes and were really good.
Nice.
And I was at that Grinders show as well, and I feel like he was drunk or something that night. It was just, he was kind of an off night for him or something.
Okay. Well, I totally forgot that I had read plenty about his admiration of Bob Dylan, and I was just like, what are you doing? Like, I was like, oh, that's right. He's a huge, and I was like, oh yeah, like it all clicked. Like, he does sound and tries to sound a lot like him. And anyway, it was, I was glad I went. It was just like, I don't know, something about that record, man, that's just really, really, and he is, there's players in the band, right? But he orchestrates a lot of the musicianship, I think, the crafting. Anyway, episode 10, microdosing for a month.
Yeah. I think that again, the podcast is for me, by me, about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I journaled every day for a month, and was on this microdose regime to see if it was going to do anything. And that's why I kind of used integration as the theme of season 2, is because I think even though I was integrating at the time, I don't believe the integrating ever stops. And I believe that about a lot of things now, about like intentionality and how you go about your day. It's almost, if everybody did more integrating or just more mindless time, or quieting the mind time, I think we'd all be in a better place. We can talk about this after the fact, but I have like really, really wanted to dip my toes in the microdosing waters, and I can't even say that I've given it a fair attempt to actually make it happen. So maybe you can steer me in the right direction. And as I say in the episode, the longer it went on, the more I just wanted to do a bigger dose.
Okay.
And I think that if you haven't gotten to psychedelics at all, the microdosing regime could be eye-opening and tons of breakthroughs.
Lots and lots of psychedelics. And my body, very clear signs in a sort of a stair-stepping way. Like, we're about to wrap up this chapter, and you will not be revisit on for LSD and for psilocybin. But microdosing, I think, could have some benefits for me.
I'm only, almost 4 years into this psychonaut journey, so I haven't really. I feel like I'm close to peaking out where you are, where there's not much more that I can gain. It's funny because it's like doing 40 years of therapy in 4 years.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, if I quit drinking when I was 40 and I'm, it's 4 years later or whatever, and I'm done healing from the previous 40 years, what are the psychedelics going to do more to me? I mean, I've considered, but I haven't done any major dosage recently.
Okay, but 5 grams.
That's like 3 years ago now.
Okay.
I've probably done 2 or 3 more 5-gram trips since, and neither one of them were nearly as explosive as those others.
I mean, my first time, I split an eighth with like 4 people, maybe 3. And I mean, like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, and I hit that again in future trip, now past trips. But you know, once you have some time, like a decade or 50, whatever, and you talk with a lot of other people about their experience, and they're like, yeah, I mean, I used to eat a quarter, and I'm like, what? I don't know. How are you sitting here? Like, how are you not locked away? That's insane.
There was discussions with friends of mine whether or not I should have done like a microdose tonight.
Nice.
But I didn't.
It would have been interesting for you to have done one and then tell me about it afterwards.
That was we didn't, what I came to the conclusion was I didn't want to put you on the spot. I was like, oh, now you're a trip sitter. You know? Like,
yeah.
So it's just very cool.
That's cool. So one person in particular, you know, I couldn't really find, God, as connected as the internet has made us, we're all very disconnected. And you know, I don't know what kind of grade I would give my effort, but it was like, I was sort of trying to connect and figure out who can be, you know, a mentor, or a guide of sorts as I begin down this podcast journey. And it just never happened. I had a couple folks help me with some key details. But it was mostly, I was just on my fucking own. And there was one person in particular that was like, just fucking go, just do it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to, you know, start with my phone and have it be shitty audio. And like, I'm not organized. I haven't figured out any of the pieces. Like I gotta feel like it's go time before I go. Otherwise it'll be a failure in my mind. So it took me a year. I mean, it was literally bringing people in to demo this room and rebuild it. And then this table was a door behind my furnace, and I cut it up and made this, buying all the gear and then figuring out what the fuck to do with it. I mean, it was, you know, and I really hit a wall there. It was like, cause everything, I was like, I'm drawing plans, I'm making outlines and notes, I'm building things, I'm buying things. And then all this shit's here. And it was the same with the Xbox. It's like, okay, I Google a thing and then I've got 7 tabs open and I'm watching videos and following links and I don't even know where I fucking started. And it was just like, anyway, I wondered if you would share a little bit about the launching process for yours. If it was quick and easy, if you already knew what you were doing, like what did it look like?
I feel like I'm a underground creative writer.
Okay.
I write for myself or therapeutically or whatever. And so as I was, you know, going through what I had start to experience, and I was like journaling and writing down things, I was like, yeah, there's something here. That's what I was telling myself. There's something that men, you know, needed to hear of this process that I just went through.
Okay. And
my plan was never to really do a second season. I just I just wanted to do that one season, and in hindsight, maybe I should have. And I don't, like you said, people just tell you to go. They don't even, you know, the editing, the meticulous things that you might want to do and make it better. I'm sure the best podcasters or the most successful people are the ones that just put it together and let it go, and then don't even think about it afterwards. There's just too much thought put into my stories and putting them down to paper and then saying them out loud. Like for me, it's just, you know, I've gotten into tarot card reading, and it's like the Wheel of Fortune card. You know, you just keep moving around and around and around, and you're evolving, and things are happening, and regardless of the and that's another thing that I've been really, really hard to, but getting so much better is controlling the outcome. You know, it just doesn't matter to me who's listening to it. It's there for somebody.
Sure.
That could help one man that's
right
down the bottle. He's in a bad marriage. He's got kids. He can't pay the bills. There's something there for that person. I can try to reach them with marketing and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's almost like the way that I found mushrooms. It's just like you just gotta be looking out for it. And maybe it'll find you.
So what? I mean, you have a spot in your home, and do you have a
I just have a table and an iPad and or a laptop and a microphone and some headphones. And
okay.
Do
you enjoy the space that you do it in?
Yeah, well, it's a new space.
Oh, that's right. My bad. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good to talk about going through a divorce. So it's a new space, and it's kind of like the current cover art on the podcast that you see was designed by a local artist.
Oh, cool.
Hippie Voodoo Lady is her name, and she did these tie-dye things for me that are my background and on my desk where I record. So yeah.
And so maybe you already had a laptop, but I imagine did you buy the mic specifically for?
Yeah, I bought the mic.
Okay.
And it got a little foam cover over it, and I bought. What else did I buy? Yeah.
Did you know how to get it to go all the places right already, or I think Reddit really became a friend of mine around that time, and Gotcha.
I spent a lot of time in Reddit subthreads about host and equipment, and actually I found an editor who did the first couple episodes, and I think that either I probably wasn't paying him enough, or I was too meticulous in my direction on how I wanted episodes to sound and go, because to me it was like each episode was going to be a story. It would just take you away. That's the whole thing why I went with Flying K. We'll fly away to another time and place, another, timeline, or, we'll jump and whatever, and that's what I kind of used as, but I was using real life, basically stories of mine.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just, I don't want this to sound, I'm very proud of each and every episode, but, you get way back in the first couple and it's like, ugh. I'm not necessarily mindful, but I am aware that there has been some kind of ongoing evolution. And I like that. It gives me satisfaction. It makes me feel like I can see the trajectory of improvement, at least just from my own eyes. And it gives me some accountability, because I don't want it to suck. I want it to be good. The view count or the download tally, that is what it is. But at least in my mind, it's a thing that keeps getting a little bit better and I don't know. I find value in that.
We're drinking Topo Chico. That's my celebratory drink. I mean, I'm the last of the, 2 digits.
You are, man. You are.
The next person that comes and sits in my chair is a 3-digit person.
It's crazy. It's crazy, especially because, like, in the 30s or 40s, somebody was like, do you know what the average lifespan is for a pot? And I was like, no. And they're like, 6.
Oh, nice. Well, I went to 11, so I'm all right.
Yeah. So anyway,
I might be done.
But did you not just start season 2?
I did, but again, the last episode was about this birth chart reading that I had, and that took me in my own mind, and I envisioned myself becoming like this tarot card reader. I just wanted to learn to read the tarot.
Okay.
And the spiritual community is just, it's interesting,
Yeah.
And just like any, I don't want to compare it to organized religion, but, that people just have a problem with whatever you're doing, just like in anything.
What do you mean?
The feedback on me, like, becoming, like, I called it becoming a tarot card reader, how I became a tarot card reader, and it was about a birth chart reading I had.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with tarot cards, except there was a trip that I did see a blank set of cards, and I didn't put 2 and 2 what the cards were until like 2 years later.
Okay.
But ever since I released that episode, people were like, you can't just get a birth chart reading and become a tarot card reader. And I was, why not? Like, I'm learning to read the tarot cards. Like,
You're doing it wrong, Backdraft. You're doing it wrong.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like they come out and they everybody's got to be right, and I'm just like, I don't care.
Whatever. I will say that in the mindless doom scrolling that I am often guilty of, I did one of a meme that actually made me laugh out loud was a picture of a screenshot of a text thread between a son and a mom, and the son says, "Mom, what time of day was I born?" And the mom says, "You stay away from that girl." which I hold up there with my other favorite, which is things to do in New York, #1, leave. Silly dork dad humor.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. Listen, back to your continued presence. I think there's something admirable about that, man, and I'm thankful that I'm here, and I'm appreciative to tell my story, and that your perseverance and telling all these people's stories on this wall is very cool.
I appreciate it, because that there's a lot of reasons that go into why I wanted to do this, and how do you pitch it? And it's like, what I really, even if I couldn't articulate it at the beginning, the story, your story is what I was after, right? And I've always loved music, and so window dress it with that, and then people are like, well, I'm not, my taste isn't anything special, or I don't have any kind of well of knowledge to, I won't be able to. And it's like, what are you talking about? It's not a contest, it's a conversation. And so, but I knew that if I was like, come sit with me to tell me your story, people would be like, get the fuck out of here. I'm not doing that. So it's been a zigging and zagging kind of like, how do I approach folks, right? And it's not, there isn't one way. It's anyway.
Well, no, and I think it goes back to when people find you. I think that there's so much of, oh, I'm doing this, come find me now. It's almost needs to happen organically.
Yeah, that's how I kind of want most things to happen. It's just, it always feels fucking better when something of substance, right? We don't have to talk about folding laundry and every little nuance in life, but when things of substance occur organically, it always just feels more zen than the things that all right, we have to go do this thing on this day, and it's just like, Anyway, so music fan, podcaster, dad, tarot card reader.
Oh, yeah.
What else? If we're crafting your IG bio on the fly right here, what else describes you?
Oh, I mean, psychonaut, brother, son, small business owner, middle school basketball coach.
Nice.
Lots.
So born and raised KC.
Correct.
Your siblings situation is?
I have an older brother, Aaron, and a younger brother, David.
Okay. 3 boys.
Yep.
A lot of pee on the floor.
Yep.
Bathroom floor, as they say.
The middle child.
Right. Mom and dad met in college, you said?
Yep.
Where did?
Athens, Ohio University.
Okay.
Close to the Kent State riots.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. And
what was that, like 68?
Yeah.
69?
Yeah. So you often hear the Ohio State University. This is the University of Ohio.
Yeah, gorgeous place.
Okay. 2 different schools though.
Correct.
Right? Okay. Did your folks put on music to listen to in the home when you guys were young?
So to remember my childhood is non-existent. I don't have a lot of recollection of my childhood. It's a very odd thing. The one of the first memories I have is of the Jackson 5 concert at Arrowhead. That's a memory that's ingrained in me. There are a lot of sports things just kind of piled in my head about my youth that I think I've worked hard to not connect those with my youth, right? But the memories of my youth where there's not a lot of sports being played is very far and few between.
Interesting.
And other times are just bad times I don't even like to think about.
Oh, okay. Wow. The first time I sat at the kitchen table with my my ex-in-laws and my ex-sister-in-law, whatever the topic was, it occurred to everybody at roughly the same time. They're like, "Oh, he doesn't know," and I was like, "He doesn't know what?" And they're like, "She doesn't remember hardly anything like before 16."
Wow.
And I was like, and of course she's like, "Whatever, that's not true." And they all, talk about how they've talked about this many times before. And I was like, I don't believe that. That's not true. And then, fast forward 15 years and counting, however, I don't even know what we're up to now.
And I'm talking like 1 through 10.
Well, I mean, I would say
Maybe
if 1 through 5 is foggy, that I get that, but 6 through 10, that's not nothing. I mean, it's interesting. And I've always been tabbed by my siblings as a good memory guy. So maybe we're just that on opposite ends of the spectrum. But that's crazy. That's wild.
Yeah, it's all just sports. Literally.
Christmases, Halloweens.
I mean, there's some of that stuff. There's
your younger brother coming into the fold.
For sure.
Okay,
There's some good times that are in there. I just think that the monotony of the day-to-day stuff is just kind of blurred out.
Sure. Okay. So how about so your first show is Jackson 5?
Yeah,
at Arrowhead.
It's like 4 or 5.
And how about first album love or album acquisition or
first album acquisition was Van Halen Jump.
Okay.
I do remember that because I have in the podcast I think episode 5 that you asked about, which was interesting. I found my parents' old records during that trip.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I busted them out. I found a record player. It was like the most exciting thing that ever happened to me. In that
one of the greatest album covers of all time, 1984, the baby.
Yeah, Van Halen Jump. It's in there.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to it since, but there's only so much time. And listening to records I love because it's just such a physical experience.
Yes.
It's not mindless background music. It is there with you.
Right.
But what were we talking about before that?
Just I had asked your first show, and then if you had a first album that you sort of either fell in love with, or was it your first purchase with your own money, or a hand-me-down that became the starter to your own collection.
I don't have. I've only bought a few albums on vinyl in my life.
Well,
no. But I did inherit. I did take some of those that I listened to in that episode, and
cool.
I now have a record player. And
I say album, it doesn't matter the media.
Got it.
Medium, vinyl, cassette, CD, digital. To me, vinyl is vinyl, and an album is a release. A collection of songs. But nevertheless, you did give me a super impressive list of important records for you, and I like to run through them chronologically. So we go way back to the waybacks, 1972, Neil Young Harvest.
Yes, sir.
His discography is something else, because there's Neil Young records, there's Neil Young Crazy Horse records, there's a lot of other bands that he's made records with. But I think if you're just looking at Neil Young records, I think this is 3 of 28, 10 tracks, 37 minutes. Now I'm running down the road trying to stay up somewhere in her head is one of the many amazing lines from the opener, Out on the Weekend, which is one of the greatest songs of all time. And when I bought this cassette, I think the FM radio hits drove me to it. And so I was more excited about having my own copy of Old Man, and what Alabama's one, and there's one other big hit on this record that's escaping me right now. But I totally glossed over Heart of Gold. Heart of Gold. Thank you. Out on the Weekend is one of my all-time favorite songs. I think it's flawless. The way it kind of rolls into track 2 is also just very medicinal for me. What was your Neil Young discovery like?
So it was in this collection that I found.
Okay.
And I was in Scottsdale, Arizona over Thanksgiving of this year. And one of the intentions of my just taking that time away for myself was to figure out these 4 records for you.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wanted to take this as a time to, do some integrating on my own about how music has reflected in my life. And Neil Young, the man, is very inspirational to me, and just how he operates and how he goes about his business. And I attended in the past a few, what was it called? Bridge School Benefits.
Bridge School Benefits.
The show in Mountain View, California, at the Shoreline Amphitheater. He puts on every year.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
It's, I think one of his children had cerebral palsy.
Okay.
And he went to the Bridge School. So it was
nice.
It was all acoustic because they included all the kids, and the kids would come on stage, and it was a big, kind of fundraiser in the 90s when he was married to Peggy, I believe. I don't believe they're married anymore.
I think he's had more than one spouse.
Probably. And this album is a total heartbreaker.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what drew me to it in the first place, obviously going through the experience that I'm going through right now. But so I'm in Arizona, and I planned this huge hike in the Lost Dutchman State Park in the Superstitious Mountains. I was going to elevate 3,000 feet. It was going to take about a couple, 4 or 5 hours. And I got to this part of the hike, and I'm just listening to headphones, and I stopped, and I didn't even recall what song was on at the time, but I stopped, and this guy's like, "Be careful going down there. You're going to break an ankle." Just says it randomly because I'm by myself, or I was listening to music, or I was just, whatever. Maybe I just look like a Midwestern
klutz.
Yeah, I don't know. And so then this dad and this son came right by me, and they were moving fast, and I just had an instinctual saying to say, like, "Can I follow you guys? Is it okay if I just, because we were entering this difficult part of the trail." And it was basically just full body rock climbing, up this mountain. And so I turned back on my music, and Old Man was on.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And it's a father and a son, and it was me just by myself trying to, do a strenuous hike in the morning.
So last month was the first time you listened to a Neil Young album?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But this album.
Okay.
For this period of time in my life is super instrumental.
Cool. Very cool. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, so I never in a million I've been, I'm not versed in every record he's put out by far, but I do have a good handful of them, and I do know a good handful of them very well, and the portions of his body of work that I know are very, very valuable to me and have been instrumental across certain portions of my life. In fact, we never had a computer when I was growing up, and I wrote for the newspaper, and we'd have to turn in word processed, and so I would always go to Matt's house I gotta, write an art, and so yes, I would do that, but there was also plenty of dope smoking and MTV watching.
Right.
And this is when Liquid Television comes out, and that's the birth spot of Beavis and Butthead. This is when Unplugged is coming out, and this is also around the time that Harvest Moon comes out, which is
Yeah, that's like 92.
amazing. It is such, and I mean, anyway, to go with my whatever money and buy a cassette copy of Harvest at 15, whatever it was like I wanted
like
those
$1.
I wanted those FM radio hits to have so I could listen to them whenever I had no idea what was about to unravel in terms of fandom for one artist. You know what I mean?
And he dislikes the album.
He does?
Yeah, I did a little research on it, and he was stooping this actress, and they obviously had a falling out, and I think he was injured when he wrote this album as well. And so
Really?
it's just some crazy stuff, and he just, whenever anybody asks him about it, he just doesn't talk highly of it. He doesn't think it's a great album.
Wow. Okay.
And then when I read that, I was just like, yeah, I know I'm making a good album.
Right?
Or I'm
Yeah.
picking the right
Yes.
album. Because
There's nothing really complex per se, and I meant to look up who's playing bass on this record. But I don't know if it's the way that the mix was done or the volume on the bass or the actual bass guitar, but it's like a lot of simple bass lines that just sound like no other bass lines that I've come across, and it just really adds a lot of texture to the record. And I also
is it themed, do you think?
the way that, as much as the orange in that sun and the yellow in the background, I think that's the beginning and the end of it, right? Because there's a lot you can, from that color combination and even that font, there's a lot you can see where you get to an old man, a heart of gold, and out on the weekend, a man I mean,
Yeah.
now I can't
Words.
now I can't unmarry my listening experiences with this album and the album art. So I might be speaking about something that's predetermined. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, personally, what I enjoy about this album and why it's just the most played album that I have right now. I mean, I literally, whenever I'm just needing to feel, I don't know, just that I'm fine,
Yeah, soothed.
soothed.
Yeah.
I go to this album,
Well,
and that's why it became something so influential, because I was looking for something for this time period.
okay.
Like, but it obviously is from 1972. Which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
50 years ago.
The other thing I meant to look up and didn't was, so we've got Alabama, and then we've got Leonard Skinner in Sweet Home Alabama. Well, I hope Neil Young, do you know, have you ever looked up the...
No, I didn't even think about it now.
It's sort of a back and forth argument, and I probably have read about it at some time and lost that information, but something to peek into.
Are you a big Leonard Skinner fan?
No.
Is anybody?
Yeah. Have you ever gone out in America?
Yeah, I'm joking.
And traveled around the Midwest? So 21 years later, 1993 versus Pearl Jam, second record for them out of 11, 12 tracks, 46 minutes. Fitting that Pearl Jam record would make the list of a friend of a Smith brother.
Well, of course.
I can't imagine the pressure, and if you read a little bit about it, it's fascinating. Trying to put this out, write it, record it, having after 10 was what it was. Tell me about this one for you.
This runs deep on so many different levels.
Okay.
reason this album will always stick out in my Pearl Jam catalog is because my brother Aaron and we attended the Midnight Madness selling at Street Side Records over at 91st and Metcalf.
Okay.
The 105.9 The Laser from Lawrence, which was one of the best radio stations at the time.
For sure.
They were doing a promotion of you could buy the record at 12:01 a.m. on Tuesday, whatever. Remember, because they came out on a Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, that's when records used to drop, right?
So that was like one of the first midnight sales, and he was like 16, I was 13, and for two brothers to go out on a drive and windows down because I think it came out in the fall, and it's just. I'm getting chills just thinking about driving. And we were listening. I remember we were listening to the 105.9, and they were playing songs from it. And I listened to it tonight too before I came over here, just because I wanted to refresh her. I mean, when Daughter hits, literally, it was like Eddie and I are, that just hit home. You know, like that song, "Don't Call Me Daughter."
Yeah,
like, it was just.
Is that long, listless breakfast table? And I mean, what a...
Well, and the other thing is I was big into basketball, which has been a theme of this episode as well, and 5 Against 1, which was the original name of this album.
Right. I just learned that preparing for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think in basketball, you kind of have to have that mindset of it's 5 Against 1.
Yeah.
So I probably listened to Animal every time I stepped on a basketball court.
Nice. Little pump up song.
Yeah.
Nice. Interesting that you said that about Neil not liking Harvest. This is the one that Eddie points to and says, I don't like, there's this whole thing about them being in California and it being comfortable and him not liking being comfortable. Like he needed to be uncomfortable in order for his artistic juices to get flowing, I think.
I think that it's hard for me to put myself in their shoes in this time. They still produced a pretty darn good album.
They did. Well, and some of the other guys said they wish their first one would have felt more like this one. And because I think they had a more of a band centric approach to putting the thing together, and
this really feels like what Pearl Jam really has become,
right?
As they've evolved to where they are now. There's much more of this influence than there is 10.
Right. So how deep into the Pearl Jam fold are you, fan wise?
I've gone the distance.
Okay.
I'm still with them. They don't tour Kansas City for some reason.
Yeah, that's not uncommon for comics bands. No,
and I think that what's always been my philosophy in concerts is if they're local and within driving, then it's always
on the table. Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Once you start getting on a flight to go somewhere, it has to be the right set and setting, right? It just has to become a psychedelic trip at that point.
Sure.
I just prefer. I like traveling.
Yeah.
So me traveling and music, that's a big up for me. That's taking away a trip that I want to go hike or go see something, go to an island, something like that, go explore. So if they don't come near Kansas City that often, it's just hard to get down to a show.
But I mean, are you familiar with it's 11 records? Are you familiar with all of them, or have you?
I've listened to them all. Yeah.
Okay.
They're the later ones are not my favorites.
Okay. I mean, they just put one out last year.
I like that one a little bit better than the previous few. My favorite record of like the later half is like probably Riot Act.
Okay. Right on.
I mean, I love everything through Riot Act.
Cool.
After that, it's like there's a few songs here and there.
Right. Yeah. So a couple years after this, we get another second release, the Bends, Radiohead, 95, second and 9, 12 tracks, 48 minutes. And not only is it your second consecutive sophomore effort from each of these artists, it's also your second consecutive album, which folks might say, but what about 10? But what about OK Computer? But you've gone Versus and now you're going the Bends. When did Radiohead first hit your radar?
Of course, I think it coincided with everybody else's career.
Yeah, of course.
This album and what Pearl Jam was doing too was, obviously I was a freshman. There was things taking place, not obviously, but I was a freshman when Versus came out, and so part of what we were talking about earlier with Matt and his brother Lucas, some of these organic, lifelong friends were being formed.
Cool.
And Pearl Jam Versus not only was part of that with my brother, but it was part of that with my friends.
Okay.
And, those became, and along with the Bends, the backbones of what would be, lifelong friends.
Nice. Yeah.
This album is so good. I probably listened to it 15 times since I picked it. It's so good. I think it's also a themed album. I think that there's something, that they were going after successfully to put their stamp on something. And, the Bends, which is when you come up for air out of the water.
The Bends is, I think, when you come up too quick.
Too
for
quick.
air.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Fuck yourself up, right?
Right. Too quick for air.
Yeah.
I just left out the too quick. It just feels like, Bones, High and Dry.
Yeah.
Black Star, My Iron Lung. Like, it's all, they're going after something, and they do a pretty darn good job of it.
I went, when I saw it on your list, because it's a first.
No, it's first.
It's a first appearance. And most of the time, if I'm talking to somebody about Radiohead, this record comes up. It's been one of those, and I got a long list. It's been one of those where I go to check it out, and then I check out early. Like, High and Dry. Okay, yeah, I know that tune. And then shortly thereafter, I'm like, this isn't really doing anything for me. And then fast forward X number of years, and I kind of give it another half-ass. It's like, it's still just whatever. I put it on to get ready for this, and I was like, oh my God, this is fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I think what maybe was sort of the stick in my spokes was that everybody wants to talk Fake Plastic Trees, and I don't think that's that good of a song.
I think Fake Plastic Trees appearing on the Clueless soundtrack helped us find the Bends.
There you go.
What was the name of the companies that would send you CDs?
Columbia House. Yeah. And that BMI maybe was another one.
So all my buddies and I were, as we were becoming friends, we're signing up for these things. And so everybody would get a different CD sent to them all the time.
Yeah.
And so then somebody gets the radio at the Bends. They're like, listen to this one. And we're, in some guy's basement listening to the Bends on a loudspeaker. And there's like 5 guys sitting around playing pool being teenagers.
Yeah. Well, so I'm making my way through it, and I'm like, this is better than I remember, but still not amazing. And then I hit track 6, Nice Dream, and I was like, dude, this is like, I can see this is sort of starting to feel like a stepping stone to OK Computer, which is, flirts with Masterpiece to me. And then the whole rest of the record after that has just got a lot of really beautiful spots. And I was like, I've fucking, it's not that I was wrong the first 7 times I tried, or however many, but it wasn't the right time. I wasn't the right person. I wasn't ready for it. Whatever it is, But I'm really glad because now I'm going to listen to it a lot more, and I know I'm going to enjoy it.
Well, all these, the last two albums have both a really good mixture of rock and roll songs and just kind of like experimental, playing far out stuff.
Yes.
And that was who I was, as a teenager.
Yeah.
My angst was all about trying to win a state basketball championship. I mean, that's the only thing I cared about. So if these were the albums that kept me going, great.
Where'd you go to high school?
Blue Valley North.
Okay. So did you played all 4 years in high school or no?
Yeah, I think I lettered 2 years, maybe went to the state championship my senior year, and we won it.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was what you wanted all 4 years of high school, and then in your final year, you got it?
Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. And I think we're relatively the same height. You don't see a lot of 5'9"-ish, 5'8"-ish, 5'10"-ish guys talk about their state title in basketball. So that makes me stoked for you.
Yeah. I don't. Do they say that you can peak at 18? I don't know.
I mean, there's a whole Leonard Skinner fans. All of them did, I think.
I am trying to reverse age, but yeah, no. I mean, 18 was a great year, and 97 was when I was 18, which was when OK Computer came out. And trust me, it was between OK Computer and the Benz.
Okay.
I mean, it was really like I probably could have put both of them on there, but then I was like, if I'm going to put both, I'm really into Kid A and Amnesiac as a side album. Like my fandom for Radiohead skyrocketed with this album with OK Computer. I was just, when can I see them? How soon can I see them? Like, when are they ever going to come near Kansas City?
So have you seen them?
The first time I ever saw them was August 2001 in Grant Park, Chicago.
Oh, wow. Okay, now folks that are big Radiohead fans and that have seen them almost unanimously say that their shows are amazing.
And this was probably, I think, at the pinnacle of their greatness. Before things started, I think like any band, it's like any marriage, right? A band is a marriage, and the longer it goes on, the more things you need to smooth out and, be empathetic towards other people, and everybody has a say in which direction it should go and things like that. So
did you stay tuned beyond Kid A and Amnesiac?
Yeah, I've stayed tuned pretty good. I've just always connected with Tom in a way that he's always kind of made me feel like Neil and Eddie. Even though he's British and he just had this angst about him that just resonated.
He's got the way that he holds and moves the human experience paintbrush. It just, you can't help but get a little bit on you. Even if you at times, and I'm like a chronic lifelong. I screwed up what I think the lyrics are until I look at them. Even if you aren't getting his lyrics perfectly, just the tone, the mood, the feel, the emotion. I mean, his shit packs a punch in that department for me. Well,
and the way that they're the trend centers of electronica,
right.
I feel like, with
right.
rock and roll, like they're the ones that perfected rock and roll and electronica at the same time after, Pink Floyd.
Sure.
They're the next iteration and evolution of what rock and roll became.
Right.
And their live show was exactly what you just described. I mean, literally, it was Lollapalooza. Before Lollapalooza, there's probably like 70,000 people in this park.
So 2001 was the first time you saw him?
Yeah.
How many times have you seen him since?
Probably 4 or 5 or 6.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
All enjoyable experiences?
Oh, yeah, every single one.
Nice.
I have not checked out the Smile or Tom solo. I don't... he needs the band more than I think the band. The music and him together is kind of what we described.
Yeah.
Just when they're not all together, it's just not the same.
Sure.
feel.
In Rainbows, fan?
Yeah, I like it in Rainbows.
Okay.
They, more so than Pearl Jam, when they put out a record, there's at least half of the record that's, I feel like, Radiohead-ish. You know, when you listen to Pearl Jam records, sometimes you're like, this is Mike-ish and this is Stone-ish, and maybe I'm just going into it, but it's very. You can see the lines being drawn,
Sure.
but Radiohead seems like they're more like, we're gonna give this up, right, and make it out. Like it just feels like they haven't lost their roots as much.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking Pearl Jam's catalog. I'm just saying that Pearl Jam's marriage has taken a different turn, and Radiohead's marriage is basically over. I don't even know. There's talk of maybe a new album, but who knows?
Wow. So fascinating to go from the Benz, which has made 0 lists until episode 99,
Right,
to Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, which I believe is, after many, many months, still the clubhouse leader for most lists.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wilco, 2002, 4th of 13, 11 tracks, 51 minutes. I'm pretty sure if they were ever knocked out of clubhouse leader position, this put them right back in. I mean, and so third record on your list by an outfit that has mega dedicated fans, and lots of them. I mean, Pearl Jam, Radiohead, Wilco, those fan bases, in my opinion, are super dedicated and super passionate about the band that they right. Is this am I making sense?
No, I think there's definitely some fandoms behind all these bands, but that's what makes them great too.
Yeah, of course, yes. Now, is it fair to say that Wilco is maybe one of the best at making each record not sound like any of the records they've ever, like, I feel like they can jump in and out of genres.
Dare I say that this record, Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, is the best record of the 21st century.
Okay.
So far.
Because?
I just think it's a masterpiece.
Okay.
I love this thing to death.
And when did Wilco first land in your lap?
Right when it came out.
When this one came out, this was your introduction to them?
I was living in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
I'd moved there after college, and my neighbor, this somewhat similar age girl, told me, you got to listen to this record. And I was like, okay.
I will.
I was like, I've heard of Wilco. I was like, my friend, back in Kansas used to listen to some Wilco, so I know some of their songs, but I have not bought a record of theirs.
Okay.
And yeah.
What do you think it was about you and your relationship with her that said, you got to check this one out?
Oh, it was just kind of like we all lived in like studio apartments.
Okay.
There was all kinds of young people.
Yeah, nice. Sounds pretty Portlandy.
Yeah.
Where did you go to school?
Kansas University.
Oh, in Lawrence. Okay,
yeah.
Okay. And then you wind up in Portland because?
My father told me I had to graduate in 4 years. And when I didn't even think to ask any of my friends when they were graduating. I just was like, okay, I'm graduating in 4. Hopefully some other people graduate in 4.
Right.
None of my friends are graduating in 4 years.
But you did.
Yeah.
Good for you.
On time. Education wasn't my strength. I was more of a savvy business person, I feel like, in college, and I just kind of talked my way through and found the classes to take. So
right on. So what? So everybody's got a 5th year on their horizon, and you're like, I'm going to go to the Northwest,
basically,
and hang out.
Yeah, I got a job selling radio advertisements for a sports radio station out there.
Okay. How long were you out there?
About 2 years.
Okay, and then straight back here, or did you travel elsewhere?
So that's when my path crossed with Matt Smith in Los Angeles.
Okay, interesting.
Lucas and another friend of ours, Steve Lambie, him and Lucas had moved out to L.A., and I was at the time closing things down in Portland.
Interesting. Wow, I don't know that I knew that Lucas was in L.A. Maybe Matt told me and I forgot. But
yeah, no, they're the and that I admire both of them for sticking it out and
Right.
and doing what they're doing. So
What does Lucas do? Is he in the show business too?
I believe he has an Emmy. He has an Emmy for he did the I shouldn't forget this name. Last Chance U.
Okay.
He was part of that team.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah.
What does their sister do? Do you know?
I do not
Okay.
know.
Okay. Right on.
You get to a certain level of age and you're just like, you want to care about everybody, but you also have to care about yourself.
Yeah.
There's a cup to fill.
And bandwidth is limited, man. Like, I often joke, and even as somebody who lifelong has been told I have a great memory, but now approaching 50, my memory feels like Oregon Trail covered wagon. Like when we left, it was completely full. So for new things to come in, something's got to fall out the back, and that seems to be as good as an analogy as I can make for how my memory is working. It's like I can still take in new information and retain it for a little while, and maybe it's even accessible, but I'm losing something on the back.
Well, I think that's a great analogy. Actually, made me smile.
Nice
About that.
So, Let Freedom Trip is wherever you find podcasts. Correct. Streaming. You're currently uncertain as to whether or not season 2 will continue, or
I think it's just a break, a hiatus. And
okay,
then we'll maybe regroup, and I don't know, maybe we'll restart things in a different way. What I'm completing now at the end of this year that I'm really proud of is I joined a yoga studio in June. And as of this morning, I've taken 196 classes.
Holy smokes.
Since June.
Okay.
And my goal is to get to 200 before the end of the year. So
nice. Congratulations.
So that's something I've been toying with, and kind of, the level of focus and the way you have to kind of make time for something like that has been at times it's just been kind of load lightening for me, because I'm like, I got to schedule my classes like this, and I got to get up this early, and so it's been really good for me, and I'm really proud of myself.
You should be, for sure.
200 classes, but I got to finish. I got 4 more. So.
Yeah. Now I have tried, and I'm not successful at this all the time, but I have tried hard here in the last handful of years to, when I'm articulating the notion of not having time, I'm trying to be mindful just to not say that, or I ran out of time, and instead say, I didn't make the time for that, because not for everything, but for a lot of things, it's, you got to choose. You have to make choices, and there are so many hours in the day and the week, and so I really want to have a little bit of intention, and a little bit of mindfulness when it comes to the way that I communicate how I'm using my time, because it's not just ran out of time, didn't have time. It's, no, you didn't make the time for that, and sometimes it's easier than others to make time for, especially if things are new or challenging or different. I mean, it's a different mindset.
The amount of healing that I've gone on and taken on over the last 4 years, time, energy, effort, it's all connected.
Yeah.
And when you begin to trust your intuition a lot more, you see how that's all connected. And then you start seeing so much more too. And I think that there's just in all these albums, I feel like, have got me and helped me.
Cool. I like to finish with 5 funny finishers.
Yeah, let's do it.
Goofy questions.
Let's do it.
You're an iOS user. You're an Apple guy. Do you have opinions about the notion of read receipts?
Read receipts.
Or
if someone
because yours are not on.
Right.
Mine are not on either. Some people aren't even aware that that's a thing. Some people are like, oh, I for sure want them on.
That's such an interesting question. I think that text has become almost like a phone conversation. Like when we used to want to call a girl back in, middle school, you call the number, her mom or dad answers the phone. You have to have some pleasantries. That's what the read receipt is. It's a pleasantry. It's saying, hey, I'm here, I'm now, I'm reading your text. What?
Okay.
Like that's like kind of like that you're in the conversation.
Okay.
If they're reading your text.
So you and I are not pleasant then because we don't have them on.
Most guys probably don't respond right away, and they don't want others knowing that they're in the text thread, right? Because they may not be in the right frame of mind. They might have had a drink. They might have smoked some joint. There might be,
Yeah. I just think it's
well, then, like, if you read not that we're close, but if you send a friend, a text that's, meaningful, and they read it and don't respond,
that's where I'm going.
I think that's a guy thing. Like, I think it's like, I don't know what women do, but I imagine guys, we just like don't care if you read it.
I think you're right, and that's crazy to me. It's like a guest a few episodes ago called me a serial reactor because I thumbs up and heart and I do a lot of that, and she was just like, I was like, I don't mean it. I'm just letting you know that I saw it. Whatever. Anyway, it's a curious thing to me.
There's a friend of mine in college. He created a cell phone etiquette guidebook.
Seriously.
And it was the most genius thing at the time. I said, Kosher, we should, totally clone that. That's genius. Like, it would totally help things out, too. And there was never one ever established. There was no, hey, this is how to use your text threads or whatever. There's no rules and regulations. Right? It's just the Wild West out there.
For sure. And if he did launch it back then, I mean, you would constantly have to be updating it because things like GIFs and memes enter the fold and whatever.
There's just so many conversations going on within a conversation.
Yeah. So let's imagine that you have a clearly outlined bucket list, and your top things might shift up and down, right? But you've got a top three, and it's a solid top three. You're confident that those are the three things that need to be at the top of that list. You're handed all of the necessary resources to go knock out your top three. Everything you need is given to you. What's happening first?
I just have this affinity for Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Like some island hopping,
Cool.
Beach going, laid back vibes type of deal.
You're traveling and you're going to Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
How long are you staying? A week? Are you staying a month?
I'm probably there a while.
Okay.
6 months, I
cool.
would say.
Very cool.
Number 2 would probably be hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Okay.
Or the Pacific Coast Trail. One of those two.
Nice. Very nice. And you're given the ability to have lunch with anyone, dead or alive. Who are you choosing and why?
It's either Babe Ruth or Al Capone.
Whoa. Fascinating. Okay.
Just Titans.
Okay.
Just want to pick their mind.
Nice.
How they came to be.
Very cool.
Who they are at their core.
Yeah. You're given the ability to visit your past self at any age of your choosing. What age are you choosing and what are you saying?
Oh, man, that one I think about a lot. There's a lot of different places I could go back. And I think that the connection back to Matt and Lucas, and probably leaving LA. There was something that was happening when I moved. I did kind of want to get this story in. Do you have a time for a story?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. So Pearl Jam releases Riot Act in, I don't know, 2002. They play shows in December of 2002, I think, that are back to back in Seattle. And they were only 10 club shows, and they were playing in Key Arena, so they were hometown shows. And I was living in Portland, working at the radio station, crushing it, by the way. They didn't even know where this person came from. Like, I had so many accounts. I was making, new friends, and just, it was a fun time. I was having a good time. And so I go to the back-to-back Pearl Jam shows. Amazing. And I don't recall if I ever took off the time of work. I just didn't show up.
Oh.
But I was doing fine. It's like I didn't show up for work. It's like, I don't know, I probably could have sent an email, but whatever,
Yeah.
Guy gets a little bit of break. I come back into the office the next day after 2 Pearl Jam shows, and my manager named Kent says to me, "I'd like to talk to you in my office." And I said, "Oh, Ken, I'm perfectly fine having a conversation in my office." And I'm in like a little cubicle.
Right.
And Kent goes, "No, in my office, Mike." And I'm like, "No, in my office, Kent." And we go back and forth on that.
Are there other people within earshot?
Oh, for sure. I knew I was walking in to get fired that day. I mean, the guy had it out for me.
Oh, bummer.
And
that sucks.
I was insubordinate. It's fine. I didn't even tell them I was going to the shows. I just went to the shows.
Yeah.
Right. But who does that? Who doesn't tell their boss that they're going to see 2 shows? I don't even know why that even occurred to me that was okay, but I was insubordinate. So Kent fires me. Portland has the worst unemployment rate in the country. It's so then those 2 buddies moved to LA, and I found a job on Craigslist. And this is the story of every guy that goes to LA and ends up doing something, and I just was so twisted and turned. I got some job on Craigslist working selling corporate travel.
Okay.
And this guy just liked me, and he wanted to hire me, and he wanted to pay me money, and I was like, fine, I'll do it. I'll try to rehash some of my reputation that I left behind. And on the first day of that job, the war in Iraq breaks out.
Okay.
So what do people do when there's a war, and you're domestically involved? They cut travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess, or budget cuts.
I was
going
to
to
say spending gets axed in some fashion.
So now you're trying to sell a product that people aren't wanting to buy because they're cutting back. That writing was on the wall. So long story short, where this question got me to is the puppet strings were pulling me back to Kansas City.
Okay.
But if I would have been just an ounce of trusting my intuition there, I think I could have done something. And I could have done something in LA in my 20s or 30s, probably.
Okay.
I had enough life force that something was going to pop.
Okay.
And I probably would be divorced, drugged, overdosed, whatever. There would probably been something that would have taken place, but I had it, and I started to find it, and I left. And Matt Smith gave me a CD as I was leaving, and the first song on it is Off He Goes.
A mix CD, like a burn CD that he made for you.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Huh.
So that's the moment.
Okay.
I tell him not to leave.
Oh. Interesting. But no regrets on leaving Portland after...
No, that time I'd gotten everything out of Portland.
Okay.
I think
Okay. Fear Factor. Remember this show?
Yeah.
What's your worst fear factor? What's the worst fear factor scenario for Mike Garry?
Yeah, Mike Garry is puked in every bathroom in Kansas City.
Okay.
I mean, I don't even know. I have such a weak stomach. It's crazy to me that I ended up drinking for a long period of time. As much as my stomach was weak, booze and I don't mix. So it just took 20 years too long to figure that out.
Or it took exactly the amount of time it was supposed to take.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know.
2018 AFC Championship game. Do we want to go
Oh,
there?
yeah, we can tell that story.
Is this Tom Brady overtime?
Right on cue.
D Ford, is that game?
Drinking heavily, that whole playoff run. For some reason, I'm still playing basketball competitively on Sunday mornings. And I went to this game, and I'm just such a terrible basketball player now. That's why I coach, because then I have the excuse of, hey, I don't want to play anymore.
Right.
And I'm meeting a buddy at the Peanut on Main,
Mm-hmm.
and I walk in, and I'm probably 25 milligrams up already on an edible, and I'm getting to the Peanut 4.5 hours early before the game.
Damn.
And I've never had so much, testosterone walking into a place, and I'm just yelling. What's that song they banned after touchdowns?
Oh, rock and roll. Rock and roll part 2.
I walk in the Peanut on Main screaming that song.
Hi.
Juice,
Okay.
give me a shot, give me a beer.
Okay.
I was invincible that day, except I wasn't. By like 2 hours before the game, I'm wobbly, and I'd had a bunch of Jello shots and maybe eaten some more edibles. I don't know why. I don't have any idea why. It was just me going, just not even thinking. And it's just so funny because this guy that all these stories and all these albums are behind that I'm looking at, except for the Neil Young one, the guy doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
That's
heavy.
He was just on a coaster that was this was the moment that I should have quit drinking, but it took 2 years later. So anyways, I'm wobbly, and I'm heading to a friend's tailgate, from one tailgate to the next, because I'm whatever, and it's
You're not gonna watch the game at the Peanut.
No, I'm in the parking lot at this point.
Okay.
I'm in the parking lot, and I'm at one tailgate taking some Jello shots. Get a call from my buddy Lambie, who's having another tailgate across the way. I've seen tons of games with Lambie. I want to go say hi to him before the game, right? No problems. I'm going to make it. On the way to the tailgate, I'm wobbly. I go in, and I finally, like an hour later, find Lambie's tailgate. He feeds me some gumbo, and he says, why don't you stay here? You're going to be okay. And I'm like, oh, no, I got to get back. I left my wallet. I got to get the card or whatever. I just was like, I'm out of here. I got to get going. Like, where am I going?
So are you at the Truman Sports Complex?
Yeah, I'm tailgating.
Oh, okay. So you Peanut on Main out to Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Okay.
And on the way back to the other tailgate, I decide to take a little snooze next to a snowbank. And I wake up, and I'm in an ambulance.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And I just, that game's lost over the overtime coin flip. It's whoever had the ball last, basically, was going to win. I should have been at that game.
So what happened medically? Why did you?
Oh, I was okay. I was just, it
was cold.
It was very cold.
Okay.
I was fine. I just took too many edibles and had way too many drinks.
Okay.
And it was just time after time of that stuff. It was just all going to catch up to me, whether it caught up to me in L.A. and when I was in my 30s or
right.
That was the path I was on. It just happened to be at the AFC Championship game, and they lost by a coin toss.
Yeah. Well, and D4 didn't help.
Yeah.
Rob Gronkowski showed up big. As much as I hate that clown, he had a huge day. right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
But not to end on a sour note. What I think is, the lesson here is that, all of these things have brought this story through this podcast, through you, hosting it, like, and I wanted to tell these things that you can heal and you can overcome, some of the strongest things you thought you couldn't overcome.
I love it.
And really that's what music does for me.
Nice. Very nice. Well, thank you for being here. Let Freedom Trip may continue, even if it doesn't. Go to your audio streaming platform of choice and check out some of the 11 or 12 episodes, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to check them out. I'm at least one or two and see what's up. Appreciate you being here, and talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
That was fun, man.